the new intro. And welcome to season 3 of Riding Through the Unknown. This is our premiere episode, and to premiere this season, I could not have picked a better guest. And before we get to that, I have to share that you will notice Nova Bell is in the house, and her name was in the intro, and that is because she will be making appearances as guest host throughout the series. So, welcome Nova to the team.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming on. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our guest who has so many amazing stories and experiences I cannot wait to share with you all. I have recently been talking with her on Facebook and has blown my mind with some of the stuff we talk about. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the one, the only, multi-talented, amazing Kristy Mae Wixon.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Nova. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk with everybody about an upcoming book that I have coming out called Eternally Starborn. It's about the creation of our multiverse and a lot of galactic history that'll be coming out. From the Orion Wars all the way down through the how might I say this? The lower dimensional fields that brought us into this dementia phase that we are all experiencing now, as our DNA has been cut off a lot from source. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to share that with you. I have a website, eternallystarborn.com, and I will explain a little bit about that in a few minutes. And I do have another link. I think here.
Okay.
My email as well. My email as well is Eternally Starborn. It's eternallystarborn2024@gmail.com. If you'd like to get a hold of me, please reach out. I'd like to explain a little bit about what I do. First of all, I'm a reverend, and that is with the Eternal Universal Life Church. So I work with people to help them regain their health through cellular DNA activation. And a lot of these activation codes are done through a place in the inner earth sanctum, what we call the garden. My planet was a planet called Maa'Kaa, and Maa'Kaa was in the Vega Prime star system. It was a beautiful place. We did a lot of alchemy there, a lot of light sculpting. I was a blade dancer. I taught blade dancing in a place called the Alabaster Temple. And unfortunately, it was destroyed in the Orion Wars, like many other planets. So all of the Lyran technology now that we are working with on and off world is done, a lot of it's done in the inner earth sanctum. So I have availability to work with people. I take them astrally down there to heal in what we call plasma vat. We have plasma vat. We have like a med bed type device that the Lyrans will put you in, and you can be scanned for diseases or attachments, astral leeches, anything that may be invading your body or your astral body, your light body. And at that point, the Lyrans and we decide what needs to be done. So there's a lot of technology that we use from devices. One's called a Zephyr wheel. It's more of a map, a Stargate type map for protection and guidance. There's bracelets and stuff they put on. They'll put on you to regulate vitals or regulate heartbeat, to scan your light body to see where the imperfections are and what DNA needs to be activated. So it's just a lot. There's a lot going on, and I'm with all this AI technology that's coming in uh, into our world nowadays, and all the EMF and all that horrible stuff that we're dealing with. It's really important to keep your body healthy, keep it aligned, and keep your crystalline cellular structures, sorry, in tune. So the Lyrans are the ones to help you with that.
That is really cool. And when you're talking about med beds, is that the type of med beds that they're talking about are going to be coming available here, or is
Yeah,
this a different version?
it's a higher tech version. They're using crystal technology. It is a higher a version of the med beds that will be coming here, which haven't been completely released to us at this time. But it's pretty much under the same mechanism. There are other uh, stem cell activations going on. I know there's people use phototherapy and stem cell activation, which also increases telomeres in your DNA, and that advances healing properties. So I'm also working with some of those as well. You can, yeah. It's healing time for Earth, and it's healing time for humanity. We've we've been separated, and our DNA has been distorted. It's been so abused for so long that it's just time for people to come together at this time and start the healing process.
I agree. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of a little bit curious too, because I've seen some of the pictures of your blade dancing,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering if some of the martial arts has possibly utilized some of this technology or knowledge, and
Yes.
is it
Yeah.
similar or?
It is very similar. It is a martial arts dance. The on Earth, martial arts again is used with prana, mana, and the chi life force, and how we integrate that into our body to to use that energy again to obtain it, to direct it, and to harmonize with it, to use it for different purposes. So when I was teaching blade dancing on Maa'Kaa, I did this in a place called the Alabaster Temple. There was a lot of light sculpting involved. So alchemy and light sculpting, our weapons were enchanted with an alchemy. We used different things from fire to water to wind, different elements. We had that ability because we were working on a different, higher dimensional frequency band and a frequency field. So 7th dimension to 9th dimension at that point, where things work a little different than they do down in the lower 3D dimensions. But yes, techniques are pretty much the same. The felines that I particularly am and that worked with were called Katai. And so the Katai were we were a rogue pirate band of like warriors that kind of banded off from some of the other Lyrans and felines because we wanted to have justice in this universe and multiverse. We didn't want to just sit back and take it anymore. Many of our planets were destroyed during the Orion Wars, and we wanted to get out and do something and make it. Not that we wanted to fight and kill. It's just that we didn't want to be killed anymore by these, races that were strong. They were very strong, and there was many of them. There were reptilians and that came and destroyed a lot of things. But I want to make something really clear so that people understand this. Just because we've had battles with reptilians in the Reptilian Empire and the Draconian Empire doesn't mean that all reptilians and all draconians are bad. That's like saying all Americans are bad, or all Anunnaki are bad. So that's not the case. It's intention, and there is a majority of them that are not very nice. But please do understand that, within this multiverse, there's a law of one, which actually will be coming in this area of our multiverse, although it doesn't exist right at the moment. And that is because this is a free will beta universe. And when I say that, I mean we're still under testing. So it's a genetic testing area with many different races. So even the grays, some of the taller grays, lesser grays, some of the middle height grays, they were here as well for that. There was a lot of testing going on, which most of them have been removed at this time from this area. I did get confirmation on that. So that's really important. I want to add too that there has been negotiations going on off-world. I know this because my father is the admiral to the Holy House of Lyra. His name is Maa'Kaa, and he is a big white, kind of golden whitish lion. And we do work with other high councils, from the Sirian High Council to the Galactic Federation of Worlds, to the Palladian Council, the Andromeda Council. There are other councils as well called the Galactic Councils, intergalactic councils, and then there are some above us that are starseed councils that actually I do not get involved with that. So there's so much going on. These negotiations have been laid out. They've been offered to many different races. We started out about a year ago with what we called the Fortress of the Five. So there were 5 initial races that the treaties and negotiations were offered to. One was the Lupin clan. One was of course, one of the Katai was the Feline clan. We offered that. There was the Thuban Empire, the 3rd house of the Rising Sun. So that empire was willing to join us. So again, that was a big deal. And then there was the Valkyrie. They are not on world, but they joined. And the Dragon Legion, part of the Dragon Legion. So there's many Dragon Legions that are here right now that are working to govern this planet and to keep harmony here. So again, not all dragons are bad. There's a lot going on. And we're just kind of waiting at this point to see what goes on, what happens. I haven't gotten the word yet to come out with detail on all of it, but I can speak about it and say that it is happening and that there is a lot of hope for the future, despite of all this craziness that's going on right now on Earth.
That's amazing.
It is. And humanity really deserves it because humanity has been through a lot, and it's time. It is time for humanity to wake up. It is time for disclosure, and it is time for everybody to come together in a unity. To We have to really work on our frequency and our vibration. Not saying that that's going to make everything perfect, but it sure paves the way for what we want to manifest within our own reality time fabric that we're in right now, that we're dealing with. So yeah,
That's a lot. That is a lot going on there.
that is a lot, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I like it.
I'm
So,
curious, Chris. Oh, go ahead, Nova.
oh, I was just gonna ask um, if there was anything specific that you could tell us that you guys are working on.
Well, yeah, the negotiations we've been working on, yes. We've also, prior to those negotiations, on the second wave of them happening with the higher council, especially the Sirian High Council, which the Lyrans have been working with since the cradle of Lyra was even created, a long time. So those negotiations have been laid out. There's also been frequencies that we've been establishing and anchoring and arcing into this time field. So bringing down from higher dimensions into into the lower dimensions. So that's what's really increasing the Schumann resonance on our planet. The Lyrans aren't the only ones involved. There's Pleiadians hard at work. There's Venetians hard at work. There's a lot of factions that are involved in the Galactic Federation of Worlds that get, a direct connection with an entity or an emissary, and that information comes in, and it's real, and it's real information, and there's a lot of really good people out there right now that are very legit and very trustworthy, and then are bringing this information in. Um, I have to say, because I do listen to some things that, I can tell whether it's, you know, good, whether it's hearsay or whether it's really legit information. And that legit information just sticks right in my gut, it just doesn't leave. Um, I do know, and I go back for confirmation on a lot of it because we're all distorted. We're all having some sort of distortion down here. We have to make sure the information coming in is true information to help us and to help humanity. And I think that's what a lot of us are trying to do. We're trying to get to the bottom of who we are, what
Mm-hmm.
our mission is here, what our purpose is, and how do we go about that purpose, and how do we help Earth, and how do we help humanity at this point in time? Because if we keep going down this road that we're on, we're not going to be here for very much longer. And I really truly believe we have the ability to manifest our own timeline, our own reality, and to bring in the higher dimensional realities and timelines that we can create. So as a
Absolutely.
collective, that's what a lot of us are trying to do at this point in time.
Yes, absolutely. I love that.
Thanks. I agree with you 100%. I mean, we're all here together. So there's nobody greater, nobody lesser than each other. We just all have information that we need to share, and we need to help each other along, try to reconnect to our source, to our creational, you know, what I call eternally starborn. I call us that we're eternally starborn because we all came from that creational place, and we all are eternal beings. We all
Mm-hmm.
choose to take different paths from there. So
Mm-hmm.
those that are not like, all right, let me explain this. There's immortal beings, and then there's eternal beings. And the eternal beings have stayed on the path of that enlightenment, if you will. Their DNA has stayed to somewhat hold those codes and activation codes, and they've consciously wanted to stay on that path because everything is a choice. Now, for those that are immortal, they have lost their way, and they rely on other things to keep them alive at that point, to extend their evolutionary process of their avatar body. We have an avatar body too, and we can heal it, but it takes awareness and consciousness and that wanting to learn how to connect all your DNA on a cellular level and not just go down a bad path and harm others and rape and pillage along the way. So those particular beings that didn't want to evolve spiritually, those are the ones that are having more of an issue. Although no matter what they do, they're still loved by Source because Source is a part of all of us.
Right, right.
Right. So we choose our path. We choose our way, and
Absolutely.
I have fallen many times. All of us have. So, but the thing is no matter how many times you fall, it's recognizing who you are, where you are, what you are, and why you are, and getting back on the path to that eternal divine path of awareness.
Absolutely.
That's what the ascension process is all about, to get humanity awake enough so that disclosure can happen. Because these ETs and factions want to come down and interact with us, but they can't. They really can't at this point because humanity wouldn't know how, they're not ready to handle it. And I'm not saying all of them. There's a percentage that aren't. Most of them are. And those that say the seed pickup was to happen and everybody's to jump up onto a ship right now, those that weren't ready biologically as well as spiritually wouldn't be able to make the trip because their bodies wouldn't be, their DNA wouldn't be able to handle it.
Right. And I
Yeah.
actually have an interesting question. I want to pick your brain a little bit about is a lot of people are talking about like Council of 12. And I keep hearing people saying tribes of 12 and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, there's 12 races, there's 12 this, 12." And so my question for you is with all the work that you're doing and all the councils that you work with, is the Council of 12 that everyone is seeking and
Let
like
me clarify
fearing?
that for you.
Yeah.
I can do that. I think when you're speaking about that, I'm seeing different things happening here. So originally there was a there's two councils of 12. First of all, there was a Pleiadian council of 12. That is now the council of 9. And so people get that confused. And that happened a long time ago. There is the 12 tribes. Actually, there were 13 tribes, but we know 12 of them, that brought in the different races from the different star systems. So a couple of white races and yellow races and black races and brown races and even an orange type race. So there are many, 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 many. I'm going to put something out there because I feel this is a good opportunity to do that. I have a dear friend. Her name is Chantel Goldray, and she is amazing at putting together a lot of this information as well. So if people are looking to really find out about their tribes and what tribes they're connected to, I just gonna say she does amazing work and she does star chart readings. So please look her up. She actually confirmed a lot of things for me that I wanted confirmed, and it was spot on, and it's true. So, but yes, there are 12 original tribes that were created from the Lyran genetics that were seeded here into this multiverse. Because all humanity comes from the Lyran genetic coding. It was part of the cradle of Lyra. So there were, yeah, it's a really interesting thing. People think that the Anunnaki created humanity. They just helped with the digression of the DNA. So we had what they called angelic human DNA, but it was actually a Lyran human DNA that was created. And when the Anunnaki arrived, because they were immortal beings, they were looking to mine gold, and they were not just looking for any gold; they were looking for what they call monatomic gold, and it was to help them sustain their immortality because their DNA was getting depleted. They were holding reverse DNA codes in their DNA, and they took it upon themselves at one point in time to interbreed and intermingle with a lot of the human genetic hybrids and Homo sapien races. Again, all holding the genetic Lyran coding that was part of what we call the eternal first creation. So at that point, it just mixed it. It mixed the gene pool. There were other races that came in, mixed the gene pool, and mixed it all up. But those 12 tribes were original guardian races. They all came from the original guardian races and the founder races and the Lyran races. So they were definitely guardian, angelic, human, Lyran, stellar genetics before they were reversed in a genetic engineering type way.
Okay, cool. And I actually have a question for you, Kristy, and Nova. And it's something I've talked about on another episode with another guest. And it's, I don't normally do religion, but it's something that I feel like will help people maybe plant the seed of helping them realize that not everything that they've been told in religion makes sense and may open doors. And what it is so we have Noah and his family, and they're supposed to be the only family on the planet. Well, actually, let me step back a second. It's Adam and Eve, and there's nobody else on the world except these two. They're the mold, so to speak, and they have two sons, Cain and Abel. Well, Cain and Abel marry women from other tribes, according to biblical
Mm-hmm.
lore. But my question comes down to is if Adam and Eve are the only people on the planet and they only have two sons, where are these women coming from and who are these other tribes that just magically appear and everybody's okay with?
Okay, first of all, that is not all the information that should be given. A lot of it was kept out of the Bible on purpose to control, to manipulate, and to change DNA structure. So I don't know how to explain this, but when false information or no information is given, and only certain information is given to to humanity, then we get programmed into believing that this is the only way that this happened, and this was the only thing around during this time that this happened, and that's not true. So a lot of the angelic tribes, like I said, were influenced by um, lesser genetic beings, and the Nephilim were part of that. They were part of the giant races. Some of the Anunnaki also mated and interbred with what we call the Yanni women. They were angelic founder race, a race that was bringing in this 12 to 24 strand DNA. The angelic strands of DNA could go up to 52 uh, strands of DNA. So all that genetics, there were other races that didn't want that, and their purpose was to cut off humanity from their eternal creation, so that they could be manipulated and controlled, and that's exactly what happened. Now, that's part of all of that. So all of even Enki and Enlil and Enoch was kept out of the Bible on purpose, because those stories would have shed light and would have brought awareness to what really was going on, and they didn't want that, so they kept everybody under the thumb in that aspect. So yeah, that's they're giving you a little bit of the information, but they're just not giving you the whole information. Just like our galactic history, we have, yeah, certain things happen, but there's more that happens that just, people don't know about. So no, that's not completely true. There's more involved.
Agreed.
Nova, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, could you ask the question again? Sorry, I was into what she was saying.
The question was, if Adam and Eve were the only people on the planet and
Oh
had
yeah.
two sons, Cain and Abel, where did these women from other tribes come from?
Well, I agree. I agree with what she was saying as far as things being hidden or just not talked about. Um, I mean, when you talk about Adam and Eve, you also have some stories about Lilith, and she's the first
Hmm.
woman, not Eve,
Yep.
So I feel like there's definitely a lot of things that were hidden or not talked about, and there was a lot of. I agree with the DNA manipulation for control purposes. I think.
So you bring up an interesting point with the Lilith, because the story goes a rib was plucked from Adam, hence Eve. And so I viewed that as, was Eve genetically modified to
Hmm.
be who she
I think
is?
so.
Yeah.
And I also find, and I've been corrected that Lilith and Eve are two different women,
Hmm.
because I was thinking the way the story goes is you see Adam and Lilith, they're married, they're having life. He gets his rib plucked. All of a sudden, it's Adam and Eve. Lilith just disappeared. And I'm like, well, if Eve was modified, was Lilith modified to become Eve?
I've wondered
And
that myself, actually.
There's definitely a lot of genetic splicing going on.
For sure.
Yep, totally agree with you both on that. And if you knew the real truth, then they couldn't, control everything. So it had to be. It's not that the Bible is not real; it's very real. It's just that a lot of the information was kept out of it on purpose, so that there could be control and manipulation.
Absolutely.
Yep.
well, in studying the Bible, I took a course in college about it. The thing I have about when people say the Bible is the Word of God and the book is, my mind goes and looks at what was going on, and it was 30 years after Jesus the first books of the Bible were written, and lifespans what they were, and nobody's apparently writing anything down, and then they decide 30 years later, hey, we should write this down. I go and I say to people, remember the telephone game, how you
Oh
had a
yeah.
group of 10, 15 people and you could never get the same message to come around the circle?
Hmm.
So
Right.
how can from 0 to 30 years be an exact truth of storytelling?
There's no way.
That's very true. No, it's not being told. You're not being given the whole truth at that point. And I am gonna say something because I feel like I need to. But there were three Jesuses, not just one. And these particular, they were called Jeshua 12 and Jeshua 9. And then there was another, I don't know if he was an apostle, but there was another Jesus that came, that was here. These were These are part of the Christos lineage, and you can actually look it up. It exists. There are things out there that can give you the story on it, and they were sent here as they were high masters, and they were sent here to help humanity and to give humanity a chance to learn and listen and learn. They had places. They had a place called the Mystery School, and the Mystery School was where a lot of these teachings took place from the original. When they weren't called Jesus, they were called Jeshua. So it was Jeshua 12, Jeshua 9, and this other Avitar Jeshua that came down, and the people didn't really listen. And again, it was a mess. How they ascended out and they went back to where they came from.
So I almost wonder, because I did a story where I was looking at the legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and I always thought there was something unique about them, but I always thought it was just that they stood out for humanity. And then I heard Laura Eisenhower say they were representatives of the zodiac. And so I was like, really? And so I looked at that and I realized zodiac has elements attached. And so my mind went to, well, what else has elements? I was like, well, the star seeds resonate with elements. So I started looking at which elements resonated with what star race that I could find, and started to look at and go, could the Knights of the Round Table in essence been star being hybrids or pure star beings here? And when you were talking about the apostles and how they were thinking and elevated in the roles that they played, I mean, even, look at Judas, who chose to betray and take on the persona of the betrayer because that was what he signed up for and agreed to do after being asked to. But people don't want to hear that he was asked to betray.
Right.
And so I start to think, could the apostles have been hybrids or star beings?
Very yes, yes and yes. We are all star beings to begin with, and a majority of us, even through the time frames that we have incarnated here or other planets through many millions of years, yeah, we're all hybrid to a certain degree. I don't think people realize this, but most everybody on the face of the planet carries some sort of draconian DNA in their system. It's just the way that it works, and that's not a bad thing. So, it's just the information was very limited and given randomly, like I said, to keep everybody in control. Um, so if you get bits and pieces and you're told to believe that, just that, and that's only the way you believe, then, or God's gonna punish you or come down here and whoop your butt or whatever. That's not the way God works. So you know, there's no fear in creation. Creation is the process of creation works on frequency, vibration, sound, light, and color. And it all stems from a place called the void and beyond this void area. So it was, I mean, nobody knows completely on the face of the earth, I don't believe, what is beyond the void. I remember being in that void area, and I know there's a lot of other people that do as well. And so that's part of what I'm writing about in my book, about the void and about the physics of it and how it collaborates to get to where we are now. But if you really say that you can remember how, who, if you really know how it all started, I don't think any of us on this third dimensional reality can actually say how it was created completely. We have ideas, we have connections, we have remembrances, we have, those soul connections, and we're all trying to get home in that sense. All of us are spiritually, consciously trying to get back because we are part of creation. We were created from creation, which makes us part of creation, which in turn makes us creators because we can create anything we want to. So we manifest things into a creational process, but it's will, it's determination, it's love, it's all of that energy that we put forth into our reality and we draw from. So when there's fear, nothing can be created. When there's hate or lack of love, nothing can be created. It's destroyed.
Right. And you know how we, mentioning the changes and stuff with the Bible and
Mhm.
everything is there's one big change that I think people just blindly accepted, and I just had the craziest notion pop in my head about it, and that is there's the Old Testament God, New Testament God.
Mhm.
One that is vengeful, one that's forgiving. They all suddenly have different personas. And the thought that popped in my mind was we had the Christ, Antichrist. So could it be instead of the God of the Old Testament and God of the New Testament, one is God, one is anti God?
Mhm. Right. It's a conscious concept or a conscious reality that is being projected or perceived. I mean, there are entities that have chosen to ascend or descend. Yes, there are. So, and we're no different than that. We're spirits that have, or souls and spirits that have transcended or descended time, our time frame. So we're in this matrix. We're in this, simulated energy matrix field, learning lessons here. Earth is like a big school, and it's not a free school. There's a lot of lessons to be learned here. Some say it's a prison planet, which I do agree with to a certain degree. I definitely do because it's governed by 22 seed creators that are doing the genetic hybrid, programs here. They're trying to see, you know, what what kind of genetic projects they can enhance or dehance or increase or how it works here. So that's part of the reincarnation I can't say it, reincarnation recycling center that is actually above our Earth. So I've been to it. Um, yeah, I've been there. It's called the Hall of Records, and it's not only a it's like a waiting room in between lifetimes. So if you've died and you end up going, you pass on and your soul goes out through the soul net that we have around the earth, you go up and then you're either, depending on which way you go, you can be collected to go back to the Hall of Records depending on your soul and who you are and what who kind of what you're doing, what your mission is, where you came from. It's all about soul contracts and DNA contracts and why you're here, why you're not here, where you came from before, where you need to go, and it's all about those lessons. So those lessons don't only obtain to lessons here on this planet, but others. So you go there and then you kind of, it's like being in study hall for a while. You just chill out and hang out for a bit until your soul's ready to sign another contract or to come back down to this place to fulfill whatever contract or mission you come here to do. And it's not only that way. There are other ways to get here. So I mean, you can come off a ship and you can come here, or you can be created out there on a ship and brought down here, or you can be, have egg donor and sperm donor and be incubated here or there or somewhere in between and brought down here. There's a lot of different things that can happen. But for certain souls, they go through the Hall of Records, and that is a reincarnation, it's like a big Akashic record, but it's called the Hall of Records because it's tied in with the multiverse or the universal domain and part of the multiverse. So it gets pretty complicated after a while to understand the different multi facets and dimensional layers of our existence and how we travel through them.
Right. And uh, I've heard talk of like Enki and Enlil are the Anunnaki versions of the New Testament, Old Testament gods.
Yes.
And so it makes me wonder, like talking about the Akashic records and the Hall of Records, I've always been resonating towards that was Thoth's domain, the Egyptian god.
Well, he was an Atlantean high priest before he was an Egyptian. All right, let me back up a little bit here. I'm going to give you a little past history. So Thoth was an Atlantean priest. Okay, but he was also very well admired by some of the original guardians at one time. Now, he did a lot of good for a lot of different beings and factions in the galaxy, in the multiverse. He was a good guy for a while. And he sided with some very bad factions at one point in time that caused him a lot of turmoil. And when he did, the part of those factions we call the Black Sun entities or the Wisadrake or the Wisadrak collective. It was and part of what they call the negative alien agenda. He decided that he wanted to just, be a little more of a bad boy than to do what was right throughout our time fabric. And when he did, he decided that reversing the original Christos DNA was important so that he could have control in that manipulation. And that's where a lot of the Anunnaki genes got involved. He allowed everybody to come in and just have like a big party and rape, pillage, guardian species, and do whatever he wanted to do. And he brought in a lot of his, there were sons, Enki and Enlil, there was Iana, there was many of them. Now, not all Anunnaki, again, are bad people or bad, beings. There were many, many, many gods, and they were just one of many of the gods. And, if you go back to your Bible and you listen to what Joshua said, worship no other gods above me or before me. I want to, worship me, not them, because he knew there were other gods and he knew what was going on. And he came here to teach the people the right way to live. This is the right way you should live, not like that, but not everybody listened to him. And those that didn't want him to come and teach from the mystery schools tried to kill him. But there were three of them, and they were high ascended masters. But yes, Enlil and Enki are Anunnaki, and there's more involved, and they had their reign here, and they had their purpose here on Earth. And things happen. You can't have good without bad, and you can't have bad without good. So there's an area in there, that shadow area, and if you can balance the light and the dark and walk in the shadow, honoring both the dark side and the light side, that's where the balance comes out of. Knowing how to walk it, how to respect it, how to, work with it. That's kind of the same thing that goes, I guess, in a way with the Katai versus we're more of a rogue pirate warrior race. but we fought for justice. We wanted peace. We wanted beings to unite, but we weren't going to get them to unite just by saying, "Hey, unite." They're not going to do that. So when they tried to kill a lot of species, including my own, we killed back, and we said, "Look, this, look what you're doing. This is not okay. There needs to be another way." Um, and that's what all these negotiations and the ascension is coming about now, because humanity doesn't have any more time to be bullies and to be bullied. It's just like, everybody needs to grow up now and get their shit together. Because our planet needs it. Our planet needs that ascension process for people to wake up, to heal, to realize, time to get on and move on with these wars. No more wars. And that's why a lot of other people are talking about, some of them have been asked to leave, and they have. Doesn't mean they're all gone, but there's a majority of them that have been asked to leave, and they have left. And now there's different laws being established here, because the fighting needs to stop. And
Absolutely.
so even the Anunnaki know it. They're realizing this is a whole new time. This is a whole new era. We need to all get along. We need to get along with our brothers and our sisters. There's no more of that. No time for that anymore. So I have many good friends that are Anunnaki, and they're learning just like I'm learning, and we learn together. I have friends that are reptilian. I have friends that are draconian. I work with the Dragon Legion. That stuff shouldn't fear. Nobody should fear that stuff anymore. We have to learn to get it together.
Agreed.
And so, before I go further, because I've been asking a lot of questions, I want to give Nova a chance to ask some questions that she might have.
Sure.
Well, I can't think of any off the top of my head, to be completely honest. I've been following along. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying 100%.
Right. It's just been so much war going on for over 950 million years that it's time. Otherwise, Earth might not exist. We have to really think about that as a human race and a hybrid race, whatever we are down here. We are a mixture of many different things, but we're all still on this planet together. So it's time now. It's time for disclosure. It's time for the truth of the original galactic history to come out. It's time for everything to be laid out, because Earth needs us. Earth needs our love, our healing, our help. The beings on the planet does, the animals, the elementals, the trees, everything, and we're all here together. There's nothing that separates us unless we separate ourselves. And then if we separate ourselves from source at that point. So that's just how I see it, and I just don't think there's much time left. And the time that is left, it's our choice. Now we have to make the decisions to decide where we go from here. What do we do from here? I did want to mention one thing that I was told I could mention. Just kind of got some word that I could mention it. I will go as far as I can with it. So these negotiations that have been set forth, they were to open the original trade routes that were from some of the deep space trade routes that come to Earth. And because there's a lot of planets out there that were being mined for many different types of materials and minerals, Earth being one of them. And those now that those negotiations are being settled and handed out and agreed upon by many factions and many councils at this point in time, those routes will be open. That means there will be star travel available in the future. So without those routes being able to be open, and we wouldn't have the availability to get off world, or if when the time comes to do that star travel. A lot of those trade routes were trafficking routes, and there was a lot of sex trafficking going on out in space. People don't realize how horrible it can. It's pretty horrible. And so that is stopping. That's why a lot of people that do remote viewing and are involved in off-world astral remote viewing and astral travel as well, um, can go in and handle these situations. Um, but they're being taken care of. It's taken a while. I did want to say that. So there's good things coming, but it's not like it's just going to happen overnight or anything. But these negotiations are really, really, really important. And they're the other factions that agreed to most, some of them anyways, didn't want to agree to them. So they're still allowed to be here, but there is how do I say this? Repercussions that will happen to them in a sense if they cross the lines of these negotiations. So that's part of the universal law, and it's not brought in yet because it's not time. But when it is time, then those laws and those orders of laws will be established um, on Earth and on other in this area of our galaxy, so that we can get order again, because we don't have order. Being a free will and a what they call a beta universe, which means it's under construction genetically, there's free will from everybody, every faction that is here. So they all have free will to do what they will to a certain degree. And it's still governed. It's governed by 22 seed creators, which used to be 24, but now they're 22. So um, that's part of the hollow records and all that good stuff. I'm actually writing about a lot of this in my book. So a lot of this information will be available when it comes out. And it'll be in detail, more in detail. But yes, there are good things coming, and it's time, and that's why I really am coming forward with a lot of good information, because I got the okay to come forward with it. And um, the more okay information I'm allowed to share with everybody, I'll come out with that. But if you really want to know what's going on, please get my book, Eternally Starborn, because that's where it's going to be.
Do you think because of these negotiations, then that's why we're seeing more of this stuff on the mainstream media, like the drones and the conference,
I
the
will
Congress
say
release?
one thing. All right. Like, yes, because there's certain information that can come forward at this time, even government information, certain within the government themselves, they themselves can come forward with certain things, so they are as well. But it's kind of like it has to be done one step at a time. So when they're ready, they'll come forth with more information. When it's baby steps really for humanity at this time, because we don't want to overstep. Nobody wants to overstep their bounds and get anybody in a situation. So it's a very delicate situation. So it has to be nurtured properly, respected, and it will come out one step at a time. And that's basically what's happening. That's what everybody's doing. I can tell you one thing that I know is that even though there's a lot going on with the drones and people are getting misleading information and they don't really know what's going on, there is a lot of, I'll tell you this straight up, there's a lot of protection going on as well. So whatever is happening, which I can't talk about because I don't have clearance to talk about that, or I would love to, but I can't, because I don't want to jump the gun.
Right.
Um, yeah, I have to have respect and integrity for that, for many different factions, and that some of them are working together. So in that sense, this stuff is if there was a real major threat at this point, we would, it'd be a lot worse than it is now. I can just tell you that everything's okay. Everything is okay right at this point, and that we don't really have anything to fear, and that we should just continue on our own path, do our own work, and just be aware, like totally be aware of what's going on around us, but don't fall into the fear aspect of it, because it's not going to really matter one way or the other. And it's being taken care of on many different levels and with many different factions for many different reasons. And so I can say that without overstepping my boundaries.
Well, thank you for that. And I just
You're
want to
very welcome.
be consciously aware that we're at the hour mark.
Okay,
Do you have
thanks.
time for a few more questions
Of course
or?
I do. Yes, I'm here. I might as well answer them.
Okay. One question I have, along with what you were just discussing, I don't, and if you don't have clearance, that's fine. I'll respect that. But I'm wondering, because like programs like the Secret Space program are now becoming public knowledge. People are waking up to it, speaking about their experiences, and awakening to it. Is that part of the negotiations that's going on, that's a cease of that war aspect as well?
There's a percentage of it that is. I can say there's a percentage of it, yes, that is. It's not 100% yet. I will just say that different programs that have been in the past have now shifted over into with different factions and different other programs. So I can say what we know as the Avitar program is still active, but it's a lesser program than what a lot of Gen X had and a pre, so there's different there's programs within programs, but it is starting to mellow out. And again, I can't talk about that right at the moment because I don't have clearance on that. Um, but it's gonna work out eventually. Um, I do know that certain people that are in certain projects are not going on missions as much anymore, and it's because of the negotiation. So there's a lot of diplomatic issues happening off world, and politics. The politics are heavy, heavy, heavy off world. You wouldn't, people don't realize that. They think, wow, the politics are horrible down here. But when you get off world and you get into the councils and the intergalactic council meetings and the starseed council meetings and all that, it's like 12 times worse than it is here. So you're talking about worlds and, galaxies and species from all over. Um, so there's a lot of negotiating going on to see, what is okay to happen in this area of our galaxy, or what are there's so much. It's just I can't even begin to explain it. It's heavy duty. But like I said, Earth has been governed by many different factions for many different millions of years. That a lot of these factions are the ones that are involved in a lot of the programs here. So, um, yeah. So there's, it's just part of the protocol, and it's just the way Earth is governed, and certain beings here are governed. That's probably going to take a lot to, get into. I try to stay out of that aspect because I do know how it works and I respect it, and I'm trying to stay out of that at this point in time, and I'm trying to focus more on the results of where do we go from here and what do we do to help humanity at this time, especially with the Lyrans and the feline races, because and there are a lot of other races that are here, not just the felines, but the felines are a big part of it. So these other races that are working together with us There's aquatic beings. There's Pleiadian. There's when you say Pleiadian, it's like saying American. So, or there's just so many different factions within these star systems that are really coming forward. There's a smaller race called the Beta Pictorians, and they're from Beta Pictori. And there's another race called the Aphimspionci, which are a lesser reptilian. They're a master race, actually, but they are actually a lesser reptilian race. And they worked with some of the felines a long time ago. I do also know another race that not many people know about, but they're called the Epsilon Cygni from Cygnus, the Swan constellation. Um, and from the Sombrero Galaxy, a lot of mantoids, and insectoid races that are out there working with humanity, connecting with humanity. Not all mantids are bad. Not all insectoids are bad. You got your ant people, and they want to connect. They want people to wake up enough for them to interact and interface with humanity. So again, I think now that these negotiations are set in place, a lot of some of the old ways are just kind of going to fall away slowly. And that goes for a lot of the projects and programs. And as they do, things are just going to change. A lot of different factions are going to change. And that's what our goal is, to get these things working in a better manner for all of humanity. It's not going to go away overnight, but we're working at getting things way better than what we've been through.
Right, I agree, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be unwoven and untaught.
Hmm. And everybody here on the face of the planet has their story. They all have what they've encountered, what they remember, their experience here, maybe experience for other lifetimes they remember, and bringing those stories together now to share them to move forward. And that's the most important thing that I really feel, is for everybody just to come together. That's what a lot of these conferences that everybody goes to is about. And I'm hoping to be able to go to them and start speaking about different things. And I'm also wanting to put a feline panel together here in the future, bringing in some felines and getting some, information going from different people that really know what's going on. Because it's time for disclosure. This is our time. This is Earth's time. And we have been away from the truth for so long that Earth deserves it, humanity deserves it, and all of us that are involved in this community deserve it as well. And we don't need to fear it, and like we used to fear it anymore. That fear vibration and fear energy doesn't do anybody any good. So we have to hold that space and move together, like hand in hand, arm in arm kind of thing. When you're walking through the dark and you want to get somewhere and you just kind of grab your buddy's arm and you're like, let's go. That's what we need to do. We need to just go forward and get through and fulfill why we came here, our missions for coming here. And I think all of us have one. All of us are star seeds. We all have that mission, that purpose for what we need to accomplish here.
Absolutely.
Very true. And last question I have for you is one that I'm a little bit curious about. I have my theories around, but I'm
Mhm.
curious yours. And it doesn't have to pertain to the councils or negotiations or anything. This can be your personal take, but
Mhm.
I'm wondering those people who, like, for example, I was brought up free of dogma. I never got religious dogma. I grew up in the metaphysics and understanding at a very young age star seeds, hybrid,
Mhm.
all of that, and had knowledge of that later in life learning, okay, so I was a part of programs and slowly getting memories of that. Is it because of the fact that I had accessed my star side first that I'm able to go and say, help people in the astral, help those forces that are doing the good and breaking out of the program of we can only go in astral for this or that and make the choice myself to do things? Is that why some people are becoming on the positive side and kind of drifting more to now focusing on the positive than the negative aspects of the programs?
Well, okay, first of all, I think by many people here on Earth raising their awareness and their consciousness, and the Earth has a consciousness as well. And so, even on this lower dimensional frequency that we are in here, so we're all interconnected. So, you being a starseed and having the availability of not being so programmed when you were younger helped you, but it helped to keep your oversoul and your consciousness open enough or balanced enough so that you were more aware of what was going on, I guess, in a sense. Um, you had that advantage that, over other people too that were, programmed more at a younger age. So depending on your soul and where it came from and what it remembered to bring here, even if you were put through a lot of dogma rituals, I think if you're a star seed, you're still going to break through a lot of that. So your soul signature is going to want to break through and awaken because star seeds all have a mission here. Where a lot of us are called indigo children, and there's different steps to those children that come in to break down this paradigm and to recreate a new one, bring in different energies. So yes to that. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. But no matter what we go through here, what trauma, what turmoil, what program, what project, what they try to pull the wool over our eyes, I think who we truly are at the seat of our soul keeps us on the correct path for whatever mission we've come in with, or whatever mission, even if we don't realize we came in with a mission and we think we're creating our own mission. Whatever our concept of reality is in this dimension, we come here with a purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And
you're very welcome.
I just want to say before we wrap this up that all the links that Kristy had mentioned in the beginning will be in the description. And so you'll have access to those. And I want to thank you, Kristy, for being the premier guest. And
Thank you.
wow.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do want to shout out to a friend of mine. Tom Reed is a really good friend of mine, and he has a park, um, and it's called the UFO Park. And I was right here. So yeah, this is if you ever want to check out some amazing information, that is true and goes down in history, even with the Roswell History Museum. Check out Tom Reed Incident and UFO Park. It's worth it. He's a great guy, good friend of mine, and we kind of got each other's backs most always. So just wanted to
Yeah.
mention that. And yeah, and I do want to mention one other thing. There's some friends of mine that we'll be working possibly, and I'm not for sure, but we'll be working together on some musical stuff for the book. And if we kind of throw this into a music, I'm going to throw music into maybe a movie script or something as well. There'll be some information coming out. So keep posted on a lot of that.
All right, cool. And
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
we are on UFO Expo, which is Tom's network as well. So we
He's
are
an
grateful to him.
amazing guy.
Okay, and with that, we are going to wrap up this pre-recorded episode. And so this is where I normally would say thank you to everybody who was in the chat room, but right now they're not there. So I'm going to say this in the hopes that you are there. And thank you for watching. Thank you for, and any question that you ask, I'll be sure to relay to Kristy offline and we'll get them answered for you. So please like, share, follow along, and support the channels and the shows. And so, Kristy, I do have to say, though, I do hope to have you back on again. I hope you'll come back and join us
Yes.
again.
And of course, I'd love
Yes.
to come back on. And thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Nova. And thank you to the dear audience that's here. We're all in this together. So thank you to everybody. Let's make this 2025 a better year for everybody.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I just noticed something numerologically. 2025 is a 9, isn't it?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
9 is completion. So
It is.
we
Yeah.
have that to look forward to.
So we're on the right
You're
track.
right about Yes, it is. Perfect.
Yes, and I want to thank you, Nova, for joining us and joining me on this journey. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and bringing me along. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nova. Pleasure having you here.
Thank you. And I would love to reach out to you sometime, Kristy. I love what you have to say and all the info you have. That's amazing.
Thank you. Reach out anytime. I'm here.
I will, for sure. Thanks.
All right, and with that, I am going to give a quick shout out to Tyler, my cousin, who did the intro. And if you're on Rumble, he did the ad that you saw. And now is the time to reveal, as soon as I find it, here it is, the new season 3 outro.